Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high. Get sucked into the vortex of the four corners and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, January 11th, Sunday, January 12th, for those of you across the pond and beyond. Welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm so glad you guys can join us this evening. I am your host, TessaTNT, and I hope you guys had a rockin' beginning to your weekend. I hope you guys didn't work too hard last week. And again, thank you so much for joining us tonight on one of our many outlets. You may also find us on Spreaker, Periscope, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Tumblr, YouTube, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, as well as Podcast Addict. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we will be talking to and getting to know the teammates of Cobra Paranormal, which is Keith Ottersberg, Charlie Bruner, and Michelle Dyer. So, Cobra Paranormal is an official paranormal investigation team in southeast Nebraska, and they are in the Nebraska chapter of Spirit Mechanics. Cobra Paranormal was founded in 2014 by a group of friends who are passionate about all things spiritual and metaphysical. They believe the health of the soul is a priority for both the living and the dead. They find that people are becoming increasingly aware of the spiritual realm and often need help understanding their paranormal experience as well as dowsing. Oh my goodness. So welcome, you guys. It's so great to have you. I know I have all of your bios, but I think it'd be best if we start with Keith. Keith, can you tell us a little bit about you, how you began to be interested in the paranormal?
Hey, yeah, glad to be here. Thank you very much for having us on. Mine was kind of a lifelong journey. I'll try to make it fairly quick. My first paranormal experience was when I was 6 years old. Really jarred me. I've had paranormal experiences all my life. And it wasn't every single home I've lived in since I was 6 years old. So they came down, they got, the evidence, the doorknob turning and the door opening by itself, the EVPs, stuff like that. Threw a little sage around and left. Well, things kept escalating. So I got a different team to come in and a different team to come in. Again, they'd get the evidence. Nobody knew how to fix anything. Or, even let me know what was the root cause of the paranormal issues. That home, it was ever could. We ended up moving, which never helped. Everything, starts smooth when you move, and then over time, again, things escalate. I started in Beatrice calling a show called The Dead Files. Almost had them there, and then everything just quit. They had a couple of cases that involved children, so I'm like, hey, things are good here, you go there. After we moved down here to Wymore, things escalated to the point where we needed help. I started calling them again. Naturally, different producer, had to start from scratch. So it took probably 4 or 5 years to get these people here. But I did it. And Amy and Steve, they came in, found the evidence, said, yeah, you got some major issues here. They got a hold of a group called the Spirit Mechanics out of Lexington, Kentucky. I can't ever say that word. They drove up here to help me, help us. Took care of everything in the home, and then it was my turn. Amy finally figured out that the main issue was what was inside me. So Steve, along with some other people, my team, pulled this thing out of me, and my life has turned around 180% for the better. Once that happened, Steve was impressed enough with our team. He's like, hey, you guys want to be the Nebraska chapter? I'm like, sure. So he started teaching us, and now we are going out and helping others that are having the same kind of issues that we had. Long story short.
So I have more questions for you, but before we go there, how did you guys get together as far as you, Keith, and Charlie and Michelle? How did you guys all meet or culminate?
Okay. There was a group out of Lincoln that Missy investigated with. I got to be friends with the team's founder. They came down here to Beatrice to investigate a local old hotel. So that's how I met Missy. When I was still having the paranormal issues, I had to take a break while I was waiting for the dead files to get here. So I didn't even talk to Missy for a year, I think it was, Missy?
Yeah, it was about a year and a half.
Yeah, okay. And then all of a sudden, the universe puts us back in touch. That team broke up. I was forming my team, trying to add to it. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? You want to come investigate with me? She's like, yeah, sure. So we've been together ever since. Charlie, you want to tell your story there?
Well, basically, I'm somewhat new to the paranormal field investigations.
And
what's that, Keith?
I said we're breaking you in.
Okay, yeah, you're breaking me in good. No, my Keith and his team actually came out to my parents' house. My parents were having a lot of issues, and I think my mother had contacted Keith and got everything set up, and I came down when they were doing their investigation, and it pretty much went from there. Got the house cleansed, clear, and I think within a couple months after, both Keith and Michelle had talked to me about joining the team.
That's awesome. So what kind of paranormal experiences were your parents having, and did you have to deal with that as well, or were you on the outside looking in?
I didn't have anything directly, affect me. I'm pretty good at putting a wall up. So, but they were having footsteps going up and down the stairs, things getting moved around. My mother had actually had her hair grabbed, among many other things that both my parents had experienced.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So sorry, I'm really good with short answers.
Yes, we want to paint a picture for our listeners, but that's awesome as far as that Keith could come in and help you, and then that's where you got your start, so that's awesome. Michelle or Missy, how about you? How did you first get introduced to the paranormal, and what got you added onto the team?
Well, I was a pretty young start. I had experiences, from just staying over at my maternal grandmother's house. Lots of times she would always talk about ghosts, and, I was maybe 8 or so at the time and didn't quite know what to think of all of it. And I was like, oh, whatever. She kind of abandoned me in a bedroom one night in the middle of the night when I was spending the night, and something jumped up on the bed that we both felt, but neither one of us could really see. And she said, well, hold on, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And she left me there.
Thanks, Granny.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. Not.
It was really warm, let me tell you. I figured out really quickly, though, that I don't really see a whole lot of entities unless they are close to me. So when I was 15, I actually had a friend that was extremely close to me. He committed suicide on my birthday. And I knew before the sheriff had come to the house because he was sitting at the end of my bed. And that kind of drove me into paranormal. Wanting answers, seeing if I could communicate with him, if he had a message. It kind of drove me nuts for a period of time, but it started my long journey into what we're now. As far as meeting with Keith, like he said, we just kind of clicked really early on, and the energy was good. We worked really well together. I had a few instances pop up, here at home with my parents as well. He was one of the first people that I had called and was like, I need your help. And he's been my brother ever since.
You bet.
That's awesome. And it does feel like a family, another family that you build on your own. And that's how I feel about my paranormal team. It's like my paranormal family, and I don't know where I'd be without them. Just like our listeners, we find a common ground, and we make a place that feels safe for all of us, you know what I mean? And we can share our experiences and not feel like we're being judged or ridiculed.
Exactly. It is one big family down here.
That's awesome. And like you were saying, Michelle or Missy, with your grandma on your mom's side, that's where I had a lot of my paranormal experiences, and man, that really shaped my being, really. And what would really irritate me is one of you guys need to turn down your speaker. But one of the things that used to really irritate me is we'd cry at night and be like, really scared and calling out for our grandparents and like, Yin's hush, there's nothing out there. And we knew there was something out there, you know what I mean? And we're like, Granny, help us. But yeah, she just wanted to stay in bed. Why do grannies ditch us? I guess to make us stronger or have us have that experience. I don't get it, but
I don't know. I think she was fearful, and she was like, yeah, fresh meat. Here you go.
Have at it.
When I had my first experience at 6, Mom walked right through this entity that was trying to get at me. She did not see it. She did not feel it. But it was there. It was there. So, I think sometimes maybe, not everybody can see, not everybody can hear. Some people can hear and see at different levels, just like, we do physically. And some people may not understand, like I said, we've all had paranormal activity and we didn't always know, what was causing it. So it was, may have been frightening for them.
Yeah. And that's important as well. Like, one of the many reasons why we're here is to help spirits on this side and the other, and to help people feel like they're not crazy, because a lot of times one person will experience this haunting while another doesn't until like months down the road, and then all of a sudden they see it too, or they experience it too. So it's good to be there for people to let them know they're not going crazy and getting some sort of, mental illness or whatnot.
Absolutely.
It can make you feel like you're going batshit crazy. Like, it's
Been
insanity.
There. Yeah,
so,
I was
go ahead.
To go checked out, for my mental clarity. It was that bad around here. It's scary. It really is. It'll scare the heck out of you.
So, Keith, we'll start with you.
Yep.
So, you were 6 when your first haunting happened?
Yep.
So, did your parents accept it and help you out with it, or did you have to go along that road on your own?
All by my lonesome. Something hit me at a lake when we were going fishing. I saw kind of a glimmer coming at me. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground. That night at home, we had my bedroom, a bathroom, and then my mom and dad's bedroom. And there were doors, 2 doors to the bedroom. So you could go from my bedroom into the bathroom, into their bedroom, just straight shot there. Big closet against one wall. That's where the chimney was. I had just went to bed. I was still awake. Both doors to the closet pop open. The chimney explodes, and there's this skeleton type kind of thing trying to crawl itself out of the rubble to get me. I can't scream. I start throwing stuff, at it. That made noise that woke Mom up. Thank goodness. She walks right through it. I still can't talk. I'm trying to scream. Nothing's coming out. I'm pointing, and she can't see anything. After 10 or 15 minutes, she's like, there's nothing there. Just go to bed. Go to sleep. Walks right back through it. Goes to bed. So I'm sitting here under my covers. That's what a scared kid does. He gets under the covers.
Best armor ever.
I'm thinking, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I remember saying it. And then I remember hearing, you don't have to be alone. I'm like, I don't? No, you don't have to be alone. I'm like, okay, then. Bingo. My mistake. That's when my possessions happened, was right then and there. I made a deal with it without knowing. And that thing was with me up until 2 years ago. I'm 50.
So how do you think you unintentionally made a deal with it?
It told me I didn't have to be alone. I accepted. That's a deal.
I see.
For them, that's a deal. Yeah. And a lot of what an exorcist does is it's essentially a metaphysical lawyer that states you made an unfair deal, an illegal deal with this client. We're going to fix this situation. You get tricked in.
Yeah, and a lot of times they say, even in the religious world, that under the age of 7, you should be free from that stuff. But I had a experience where I know the devil appeared to me, but I had paranormal experiences from a very young age, night terrors every night. I'm still a insomniac, basically. I go to bed at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, unless I'm on an after party for the show. Then I'm up until sometimes 10:30 or 11 in the morning. But it kind of causes a form of PTSD, and when you're under this certain age, you should somehow be protected or whatnot, but it doesn't seem that way unless you know what to do. And my dad told me, when dealing with these night terrors, say, God stands before me, Satan fall behind. And when I encountered this entity, I swear to God, I didn't even say it out loud. I just said it in my head, and just like that, I was knocked out, and I didn't have to deal with it anymore. So that's why I think it's important for parents, when dealing with our kids, let them know your experiences. Be honest and don't say this doesn't exist, it isn't real, because it really is. And we need to teach them. Yeah, we need to teach them how to protect themselves. Yes,
kids are so open. They can hear and see so much more than we can a lot of the times because they haven't been trained. As they get older, we train them. There's no such thing as ghosts. There's nothing under your bed. There's nothing in your closet. There's nothing that looks like an 8-foot roach in your closet trying to get you. When in actuality, yeah, there is. It's there. So we actually train them to not see, to not hear over time. But then as adults, sometimes we start seeing, we start hearing again, and then our gifts grow. Normally it's after a traumatic event. My gifts came to me after I got in a car accident. I was essentially killed in that car accident. I remember standing outside the car, looking in at myself, going, what the crap? What do I do now? And I heard, not yet. You got work to do. Next thing I know, I'm waking up. I'm kicking the door open. I should never got out of that car. Broke my back. I broke my neck. My skull was fractured off of my spine. Shouldn't have walked away from that. I shouldn't be here today. But that's when my gifts kind of started to grow. A traumatic event can cause that to happen. Cause them to come back.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you say that, like head trauma and different things like that going on. My father-in-law was a very normal, regular person. I'm sure he had paranormal experiences, but after he had an accident in his semi and had head trauma, after that he was able to predict earthquakes and tornadoes, hurricanes, so on and so forth. He even predicted the tunnels coming between America and New Mexico that very large semi-trucks can drive through. Why are you worried about a wall when they're coming through tunnels? And he was right on. It's like a week or two after is when these things would happen, and he was even on a couple news programs as far as his predictions and such. But the tunnel was one of the last things right before he passed away that he predicted. And then about a week later, they're like, hey, there's tunnels coming from Mexico to the United States that semis can pass through.
Yep, exactly. It's interesting that you said a head trauma. I've got a brain injury from that car accident. It's interesting that you said it had to do with a semi, a truck. Missy, that sounds awful familiar, doesn't it?
The semi? Yeah, my father.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to? Yeah.
You want to talk about that? If not, it's cool.
Yeah, no. Gosh, yeah, my dad. I think it's been my daughter's 10, so it was about 8 years ago. My mom's birthday. My dad, he was a truck driver, all over 50 driver, so he had his freedom. But he was coming back from my mom's birthday, and we were all meeting here at the house to have cake and dinner with her and everything. And she had gotten a phone call from him earlier in the day. He had said that he had slipped on ice because it was February 8th. And he slipped on ice and he hit his head, but nobody knew how long he was out for. And as far as, like that accident, when he woke up, the biggest miracle out of all of it was that he drove here from Omaha, Nebraska, all the way up to Sioux City and has zero recollection of the drive up and zero recollection of the drive back. We had to rehabilitate him for at least 5 years, but he smacked his head. And when he smacked his head, after 5 years of battling doctors and everything else, we had finally figured out that he had actually severed his optical nerve. And so his eyes and brain were not connecting exactly what he was seeing. And he would tell you that he could literally see dead people. And that's, he's a call it as it is kind of guy. I see dead people walking around. At first we thought he was joking until, occurrences started happening here, of course. And I mean, it was so crazy that we had taken him over to a cousin's house, and her sister had passed away many, many years before, but we had never really known that they had set up a code word until we had taken him over there. And he whispered this word to my cousin who is still living. And she's like, how could you possibly know that? Well, he had gotten a message from the one that was deceased, sitting right there in the living room. So because of head trauma, you take a perfectly normal person like my father, who was quote unquote normal. And then he had his accident and his whole world lit up.
And I often wonder what is normal anyways, like a setting on the washer, because I don't really know anything normal. A lot of times people say, this family is perfectly normal, but they're the most messed up family you'd ever know. But
right, by whose definition?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, Mooney says, I do not like to see dead people always staring at you while you eat. And no, I'm not going to say that. Come on, Mooney, reel it in. But, yeah, when you get that and you're not used to it, how old was he when that happened, and how accepting of it was he?
He wasn't very accepting of it. It actually really freaked him out a lot. Because he was the kind of guy that you could walk into a place, because obviously I was already into the paranormal when this had happened. He had to have been in his upper 40s. I'm terrible with timelines. It all just mushes. But
yeah.
I was already into
together.
Exactly. I was already, into the paranormal, and, on countless occasions would be like, oh, Dad, look at this evidence I had gotten. And he's like, oh, you're so full of it. But, you take somebody who was a complete skeptic to having it thrown in their face, and he really didn't know how to grapple with a lot of it. It was pretty shocking for him.
Yeah, it was tough for him. It really was.
It still kind of is to this day, actually.
Yeah, he did awesome, though. He did. He did wonderful that night. I'm proud of him.
Yeah, I mean, he really clawed back from pretty dark, deep depths with the injury.
Yeah, to be on autopilot, I've heard of different people doing that, and I actually woke up behind the wheel of my car once. No clothes on, but that was a possession, not head trauma. But yeah, to be on autopilot and not even know how you got somewhere or even back from there. I mean, that can be mind-boggling at the same time, trying to retrace the tracks of that memory and trying to get that memory back. Like, how exactly did that happen? But head trauma is a major thing, and it's awesome that he got there on autopilot because he got back to you guys where he was safe and he knew that somebody would take care of him.
Right.
Absolutely.
And by the time that he had actually gotten home, within 1 hour of him being home, he didn't know who he was. He didn't know who we were. He didn't know anything. He didn't know how to eat. He could talk. First thing he had said was, "I don't know who you people are." And the ER sent us back home with him. And they're like, "There's absolutely nothing we can do for him. Yeah, he's got a concussion. But, my mom's like, what am I going to do with this man who doesn't know who I am? What if he tries to walk out in the middle of the night?" And they're like, "Well, that's your problem."
Yeah, what do you do? Like, put a tracker on him or something? And you can't stay up at all hours to take care of him. And sleep is very important, but when it comes to head trauma, like, all kinds of different things can happen. And like you said, you don't even remember or you don't recognize. And so hard for the family to deal with not recognizing you guys as who you are, the closest people to him. That can be pretty disheartening. But I'm so glad that you guys got through that. But he's still dealing with that today?
Yeah, so he's about 8 years out from the event. So he's got most of his normal functions back. He doesn't have a lot of his memories. So the weird things that he has taken away from his accident, other than seeing the dead and receiving messages, he was a truck driver. So he was always gone. But since the injury, he can actually look at a picture of anything wooden and recreate. So he's, picked up that lovely little gift.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's life. We've adapted very well.
Well, Michelle, you were talking about your friend that unfortunately took his own life on your birthday, and I feel really bad for these people because they go through so much pain and torment, and the only thing they see as a release is to take their own life. I don't think that means they go to hell. I don't believe in that. I think there's a special place in heaven for tormented souls. But after this experience you had and after seeing him, well, before we get to that point, can you tell us about your experience seeing him? Did he communicate anything to you?
He didn't. So, and yeah, I remember that night very clearly. I was laying in bed. You just get that feeling of somebody looking at you. And I remember sitting up in bed and looking at him. And like he was semi-transparent. I could see through him. He didn't have a lot of color to him. But I remember saying his name. He didn't say anything to me because then, I was emotionally wrung dry, I guess. I ran to my mom's room and I was crying and I'm like, Eric is sitting on the end of my bed. And she's like, I don't understand. Not even 2 minutes after me being in my mom's room, my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, actually ran up from downstairs because his room was underneath of mine. And he goes, Eric is standing in my doorway and I don't understand what's going on. So he also saw him. And then the phone rang and then we had gotten the call that he was gone. And I remember being so emotionally dry because I had already known, like something in me disconnected when I had seen him because we were extremely close. I remember trying to get off the bed, but my legs wouldn't move. So I actually fell off the end of my parents' bed. and yeah, that's an hour I will never forget in my life.
And it is like life altering. My mentor, she didn't commit suicide, I don't think. It was crazy because the day before we were walking around up and down the street, we were sitting on her brick fence in front of her house, and she was talking to me about how she's not afraid to die, but she's afraid of not being there for her kids. And it started as colorectal cancer, moved into her liver, her lungs, then her brain. And the more you do surgery, the more these growth hormones go out and actually help the cancer to grow. And
right.
it's crazy how that day we were walking around doing all kinds of things. Next day I go over there and she's in the bed and she's gone. And I'm like, did she take something to put her into this process, or did it just take her? But we were there throughout the whole thing until she was gone. My youngest daughter at the time, I believe she was 13. I was like, Nova, do you want to stay or do you want to go home? I'll take you home right now. And she's like, no, I want to be here for Kat's passing. So we were there, and I wish I would have not given her the option and just taken her home, because it has affected her quite a bit. For me, it's different because I've always been there for people through death. It's been a part of my life since I was 5, almost 6, you know what I mean? And that night, she came into the bedroom and she's like, hey, can I sleep in here tonight, because Kat keeps showing up. She showed up by my bed, and then she was by the window looking out the window, and I'm not afraid of her, but it's really freaking me out. And we're like, okay, it's fine. And then all of a sudden, like, you know how you wake up and you don't open your eyes yet? Well, I wake up and I didn't open my eyes yet, but there was this really brilliant bright light in my room. So I opened my eyes as I sit up, and there she is at the end of my bed. And it reminded me of one of those Catholic candles that you do blessings on and stuff. She had this amazing aura around her that was like silver and white and electric blue, so on and so forth. And her hair was long again, and she had this beautiful braid along the side. And we dressed her in a white shirt and white capris with bling blings on the butt, but she was wearing this white long flowing dress, and she was just smiling and happy. And I saw her, but I knew at that instance I wasn't supposed to see her. She was there trying to help my daughter through it, trying to comfort her. So I closed my eyes, laid back down, and went back to sleep. But that was the most amazing apparition I had ever seen, and it comforted me to know she wasn't hurting anymore. She was happy, she was fine, and she was checking on my daughter. But, I mean, that was insane and amazing at the same time.
Yeah,
they like innately know, you know. Oh, screw up in life, anything less than what you deserve, and I'll be with you all day tomorrow. And so I had gotten, you know, a really long, lengthy speech, you know, and I was like, what are you talking about? You know, you're talking crazy. You're going to be with me. He's like, of course I am. I'm going to be with you for the rest of your life. And, you know, I wish my young mind would have taken away probably, you know, the peace that he had, because that probably would have gotten me a lot further than it did, you know, struggling through losing somebody so young and feeling like, you know, I couldn't have, you know, I could have stopped it. What could I have looked out for? But, you know, like my mom had even said, just like you had said, you know, she doesn't believe. I remember going through battles because the Catholic priest had told us that he was going to go to hell, and he refused to do his service.
Yeah,
and
that's ridiculous. That's not his right.
Yeah,
it's not his place to judge.
It really was.
That's God's place.
Exactly. And that's what my mom had said. She's like, honey, you know, how do you know that this is not how the story was written for him? I'm like, you're absolutely right. Everybody has an ending. We don't know what it is, whether it be their own hand, someone else's hand, or just natural.
Well, and you don't ever know. And a lot of times people will set it up as a suicide when in reality it was murder. So you don't really know until you look at every aspect of it. And a lot of times the police force will go in there and be like, oh, this is obviously a suicide, instead of testing the rope or cables or whatever's involved to make it look like a suicide. Like, test everything, no matter what you think in your mind, automatically. Test every piece of evidence. Test the rope, test the cable, test the gun, whatever. Are they holding it in the right hand? Or are they holding it in the left? Who are you to know what actually happened until you do your due diligence to make sure that the truth comes out?
Absolutely.
And your birthday of all things, like, I don't think your friend would do that.
Yeah, it was super strange. I mean, he was bipolar. He had issues, and, you know, with the decision of his mom, you know, we did have on his headstone put, you know, peace at last, because he was trapped. And for him, it was like a perfect time. He had gotten his license back because, we were young punk kids. We like to party a little too much. So, he had lost his license because of a DUI. And,
oh, man.
So he had gotten his license back. Things were back on track. It was a really good point in his life, which is why I couldn't figure out for the longest time as to why. But then I've given myself my own closure to say that, why not end everything on a high note? That's how I would, life would have to be right for me to want to exit.
Well, a lot of people think that taking your own life is the coward's way out, but I went through that as a teenager when you're all in a huff and you don't realize what's going on. You have so many things as far as hormonal and bullies and so on and so forth. And it was about the third time of trying to take my own life that I was like, okay, obviously this wasn't meant to happen, but it really does take a lot of guts to go that route. People think that's the pussy's way out or whatever, but it's really not. It takes a lot of guts to do that, and you have to have that certain mind frame to think that is the only way out. And like I said before, for your friend, I don't think he went to hell because I don't think it's a sin. I know that back in the day when pilgrims and such came over here, it wasn't considered a sin until everybody started taking their lives because life was too hard over here trying to get everything up and running, and it was too hard. So they'd take their lives, and then all of a sudden the church said, well, if you do this, then it's a sin. Well, I don't believe that. And, I believe what I read. I've tried to find it, but I know I read it. And there is a place in heaven for tormented souls, and I have a really, really good friend that took his own life, and he even tried to take it back after he shot the bullet into his head. Like, he was trying to dig it out. And this is really morbid for you guys, I'm sorry, but he tried to take it back, and he couldn't. He ended up dying from that. But he was very tormented. He didn't see another way out, and I don't think they're really judged harshly for that. It's not an automatic one-way pass to hell. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
And I've looked into, like, when I was in the Marine Corps and stuff, you have access to so many different places as far as church. I went to every church that I could, and everybody's got certain pieces of the puzzle. If we all put that together, then it's good, but everybody's, like, fighting against each other and putting each other down, so on and so forth. Like, we're the only true church, which is not true. Everybody's got a little piece of the puzzle, and we all need to get together and uplift each other and help each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep, I do. In our cases, we ran into some souls that have taken their own lives, and we were allowed to cross them over. They weren't damned to hell. They weren't stuck in purgatory. They were stuck here. For one reason or another, every case is different. But yeah, we were allowed to cross them over, and they were accepted.
And it is somewhat on everybody's belief. Like, I came across a spirit, and, everybody thinks nighttime's the best time to do a ghost hunt, so on and so forth. But we went into the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad Museum to investigate this immigrant car. There's a spirit there that they called Emmy, which there is a spirit named Emmy who's a little girl, but it wasn't the older lady they were talking about. We put our tools up there. I even used a cell phone app called Ghost Radar, and it was the form Ghost Radar Legacy, so it records every word. So I put that up on the car. We put up all the other equipment. We went outskirts. We went other places, put up our other equipment. By the time we got back, it said her name, Kate Johnson, Walter Intention Death, so on and so forth. All these different, Walter Intention Death, Sharp Tool, and words after that. So the lady that the museum curator was so attached to, her name was Kate Johnson. The little girl that she was protecting was Emmy. She was protecting Emmy from the brakeman that was there in the railroad as well. And he was connected to her. Well, we found out through investigation she was Catholic. She had the belief of purgatory, like a lot of religions do. So her purgatory was this train car because her fiancé, the firefighter, took her on to the train car to elope. And the brakeman came through that car and saw them together and went batshit crazy. and they got into a fight. The brakeman stabbed the firefighter to death. The brakeman was thrown off. He broke a collarbone, but he lived. But the firefighter passed away. So that was the beginning of her torment as to what led her to kill herself. Had she not been there, this wouldn't have happened, was her thought process. So her madam took really good care of her, really loved her, sent her to California to move on with her life. But instead, after trying for maybe a week, not giving it enough time, she took muriatic acid, which is one of the worst, longest, harshest ways to go. Took muriatic acid, killed herself, and then she was stuck in purgatory, which was that train car where her demise began. That's why belief is... Yeah, belief is so crazy. What you believe in as far as religion and the way you were raised, so on and so forth, can keep you stuck in purgatory or different prisons in your own mind as a spirit.
That makes absolute sense. It really does. I've never thought of it that way.
Out of all the things to release her, so we gave the museum curator, and I hear the speaker again. If you guys have headphones, try to use those. But the museum curator, we gave him the information. He did the homework. Yes, her name was Kate Johnson. She was a prostitute from Alamosa, which is about 3 hours from here. She eloped with a firefighter and told us the whole story. She was Catholic, so on and so forth. He told this Catholic school class that came in the whole story. He was only going to give them a portion, but for some reason, probably because Kate wanted him to, he opened up to them and told them the whole story. And they were walking off the train car, and I don't know if you guys have been on one, but when you walk on it, it rocks back and forth. So he's walking off, and he thinks he feels the class following him, but they didn't, and he's at the bottom of the stairs, and he hears them begin to say this beautiful prayer. And he was raised Catholic, but he had never heard this certain prayer. And they came off one by one, and he had the goosebumps going on, his eyes were watering, he was like, that was such a beautiful prayer. What prayer was that? And they said it was a prayer of release from purgatory. So a week after that, I didn't even know they came in. And I came in, and he's like, hey, Tess, can you go back there to the train car and see if Kate is still there? I think she's gone, and I'm really worried. So I go back there, and I check, and she was gone. At first, when she was there, you'd feel claustrophobia when you first went on the train, and then you'd feel heat on your face, and then you'd feel a thing of anxiety, and so on and so forth. There was nothing. It was so peaceful and quiet. But then 3 months later, she came back, because we have, as humans living and spirits on the other side, we have free agency. She was able to come back because Emmy, she wanted to come back and help Emmy, the little girl, and we're trying to figure out her story. I have to send you these pictures, Keith. And if I was friends with Michelle and Charlie, I'd send them to them too, but these pictures are amazing. It was caught on a game camera, of all things, and you can see Kate in the background trying to run from the camera, but Emmy's just sitting there staring the game camera down. And it looks like real live people, because you see the reflection in her pupils and everything. But they're both wearing this white dress, and they have these embellishments across their forehead and stuff, like a little tiara, but going down on the forehead and around the hair.
Okay, cool. I can send them to Missy and Charlie. Charlie is awesome with pictures. That's kind of his thing. Yeah,
and we all have our different gifts, and that's so awesome.
Exactly.
I want to get to Charlie, but we're almost at break time. So did you guys want to finish up on anything that we were talking about, per se, recently?
I think I'm good.
Michelle?
Charlie, Missy?
I think I'm all right.
And I think I could should quit calling you Michelle and just call you Missy.
You can call me either or, makes no difference.
All right, just making sure I'm not missing you.
Yeah, nope, you're good.
Well, I'm so grateful, Keith, that we got in contact. I think you might have seen my ad and reached out to me, and I'm so glad that we were able to make this work. I know we all have a lot of things going on in our lives, and I think the last 3 weeks have been really super crazy. How do you guys feel about that?
It has been crazy out there. Do me a favor, repeat that question because my mind just went elsewhere. I'm not sure what happened. I apologize.
Okay, no worries. Sometimes the train derails. No, I was talking about the last 3 weeks of life. Like, for a lot of people that I know, especially people that are enlightened or gifted or open to this other realm, people have had anxiety, depression, very, very, very drained. Like Tuesday, I could not keep my eyes open. I was falling asleep left and right. And my head still feels weird from that. Like, I don't feel like my normal self, you know what I mean? But we had that lunar eclipse, and then the solar winds, and then just last night, another lunar eclipse.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of energy out there right now. This eclipse really is pushing the envelope on what a lot of people can handle as far as, energetically. All those symptoms you said, spot on. It's going to last till probably Wednesday. And then it's going to slowly taper off towards the end of the month. But it's going to be an interesting month. The 2019 and last decade was tough on people. But 2019, the way the retrogrades were set up, the lunar cycles were set up, it was set up for us to look inside ourselves, do our shadow work, figure out what was causing our root issues in life, understand them, comprehend them, and then work to repair them, and then forgive ourselves, forgive others, so that we can move on and be ready for this new year, new decade. And if you didn't do your work, you're going to get slammed hard this month. If you don't do the work, the universe forces it on you. Found that out the hard way. So if you haven't look inside, get busy, take a peek. But I'm going to warn everybody right now, it's not easy. It can take you into a very dark place. Just don't stay there. Visit it, understand it, and then get out of it.
I agree. This is a big time of change, and it's hard to let go of things and move on to something new, even though it's something you may not like or something you may let go of old things, grasp onto the new, and then it's a time of change, and change is hard, but at the same time, change in our world is the only thing that stays the same. So you got to embrace it. It's good for you, but right now, and I even read this, it feels very against what you feel should be happening, but it's really something we all need to do, is make changes and thoughts and actions, so on and so forth.
Yep. Yeah, you've gotten accustomed to the way things are. It's the normal. So you got to step back and you got to step out of your comfort zone. And that's tough. It is tough. This is all about breaking cycles. It's time to end cycles right now. That's what this lunar eclipse is about, ending cycles. That can be narcissistic behavior. That can be alcohol abuse. That can be nicotine. That could be eating too much. That could be eating not enough. I mean, whatever your cycle is, and most people have a lot of cycles. It's time to work on them and get them gone. Grow.
Well, I have a lot of things on that list that you just talked about. But yeah, it's a time for change. Things that you're used to, that little rut that you're in, get out of it and accept what's going on. It might feel kind of like on Wayne's World that Garth said, it's like a new pair of underwear. At first it's constrictive, but then it becomes a part of you. And you got to kind of embrace that. You know what I mean? It feels weird at first, and it feels wrong and against everything you believe, but in reality, it's what you really need to do right now. And we all need to look at the big picture in ourselves, change the things we need to, and let go of the things that aren't really helping us. Get out of the comfort zone. Put on that new pair of underwear.
Yeah. Once you do, you're going to be able to walk a whole lot more comfortable.
That's right. At first, you'll walk like you have a cob, but then you'll be okay.
Right.
Well, on that note, you guys, we do have to go to our first musical break. At first, we have Michaela Hay, and she is a Canadian phenom. She's from Ontario, Canada. And then we have Tracy Cruz from Oakland, California. And then we have Fred Johnson III, which I must say, out of all my music that I have from Quest, Fred Johnson III is my favorite, and he's from Canyon County, California. So you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
Your troubled heart bleeds like a river. It's rushing towards fields painted greener. It doesn't see the demons behind, praying you're getting close to the line, so they can get their hands on love and trade it off for silver.
Your love empowers me. It gives me the energy to move beyond my capabilities. There is no limit to what your love can do.
I feel chemistry whenever you're close to me, and I cannot explain your energy, 'cause you're pulling me like gravity. It feels so strong, I can't not escape your element.
had the range, I knew she was the one that never could go home again. Plastic life like limo seats, I don't know why I can't control this urge to hurt again, yeah. Living at the door, I search lonely things to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say, change it till it's done, murder forever after. No matter what I say, after dark. Feeling meant to argument and feel. Hiding place with days under summer. Concerning works or meshed in my image. It doesn't matter what I say. It really doesn't. No matter what I say. After dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say. Change it till it's done. Murder forever after. It doesn't matter what I say. Food and fatal, lacking the hint of conscience. No matter what I say. After dark.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. So tonight we have Cobra Paranormal with Keith Ottersberg, Charlie Bruner, and Michelle Dyer, and that's Charlie Bruner. But we were just talking on break about the pictures that I sent them of Kate Johnson and Emmy, and then the second picture is of the brakeman. And Charlie's good at reading pictures, so Charlie, can you tell our listeners a bit about this? And I'm going to post this on We Are Paradox Facebook page, We Are Paradox Media.
Yeah, you're referring to the darker picture.
Yeah, we saw the one with Kate and Emmy, but you were talking about the brakeman, the guy looking through the crack or in the crack.
Yeah, if you look down, probably be his lower torso. It actually looks like a dove or a turtle dove. And directly below the dove, it actually, you can almost see a palm and four of the five fingers.
Yeah, it looks like he's looking down at it, like he's holding it, looking at it. He almost seems peaceful.
We actually went in there after Kate was gone, and he wouldn't let us talk to Emmy to figure out why she was there. And he was in the cinema car, and that's where the picture of Kate and Emmy is. And like you had noticed, Keith, in the background, you can see somebody standing there looking in the direction of the photo. And I noticed that too, but nobody else ever brought it up until you did. And this has been out since 2012. So that's about 8 years. Nobody saw that except for me. You're the first one to mention it. I just thought it was pareidolia or whatever.
Pareidolia.
Yeah, pareidolia.
Yeah, no. As far as I'm concerned, there is definitely an entity standing there. Not only am I seeing it, I'm almost feeling it. You know, if I look at something and I don't feel something, then I consider it pareidolia. If I feel it, I know it's there.
Okay, so I want everybody to know, if you go to Facebook and look under We Are Paradox Media, you can see the pictures we're talking about. The first one I posted is of the Brakeman, but the second one is of Kate and Emmy, which was on a game cam. But you can definitely see him, and it does look like a dove. And here in Colorado, where I'm at in the southwest corner, we have mostly mourning doves. And they do that whole morning sound in the morning, like the whoo, so on and so forth. But yeah, I wonder what that means. The whole holding of the dove and such. It's weird. Kind of demented.
It's... Hang on. Like I said, it's almost like he's sitting there holding it and he's at peace. Like it's something good in his dark world. If that makes sense. It's like it's keeping him going.
Well, I think he has like a false sense of peace. That's why he's holding the dove face down. He's not holding it like he's embracing it. And then I don't think he's looking at the camera. I think he's looking at us. But yeah, it's like that false sense of peace. He really doesn't have it, because otherwise, why is he there except for to bully Kate and Emmy? And especially after Kate was gone, we were trying to get Emmy's story, and he'd come in cussing and raising a ruckus and wouldn't let her talk. She'd eventually run away, and then we were stuck with him. We tried to get rid of him and bring a psychic... Oh, man. Oh, I can't remember what he's called, but he releases spirits. So we brought him in, and he's like, he's not ready. And I was like, I don't really freaking care if he's ready. Like, he needs to be gone. He has no reason to be here except for to torment these other souls. And he's like, well, I can't do it. He's not ready. So that irritated me.
Yes. Even spirits have free will.
Right? But yeah, it's interesting that they're there. And a lot of people say, well, people die and go to their judgment day. But I think the reason people haven't is because there's only one judgment day, and that happens after the whole battle that's supposed to happen, so on and so forth. If you believe in that stuff, like I believe in mythology, I think mythology is actually reality. I believe in the Bible, certain things that to me I can decipher, and other different scripts that are found, But I did tell Charlie we were going to get back to him. So Charlie, after Keith came in and helped your family, did you have any certain things that you were opened up to before you started investigating with him? And if not, what was the first paranormal experience you had with the team?
I didn't really have anything open up as far as after. I've always had kind of this, as Keith put it earlier, I have a way with photos. I'll kind of always have. But as far as the first experiences being on the team, we went on a case down in Kansas, and absolutely wonderful family. And while we were there, I think we had been in the house for less than 5 minutes, and I had looked over at Keith, and he just instantly got the chills. And then I all of a sudden have these two hands on my shoulders trying to push me through the floor.
I remember that.
And that, I'm like, okay, that's different. 5 minutes into this, I wonder what the rest of the night's going to bring. So we went about going through the house, doing our thing, and we had went out into the garage, and I had just happened to look at the wall, the interior wall of the garage, and it was just a concrete wall, nothing hanging on it. It was almost like a movie screen. And all of a sudden I see this black man hanging from a tree. And I end up leaving the garage. I went back into the living room, and I'm looking out into the backyard, and I saw what ended up being what was left of the tree. It looked like it had gotten struck by lightning at some point. What was probably a 30 to 40 foot tall tree was about a 5 foot stump.
Yeah, about that high.
So those were really my first two experiences.
So what did
with the team.
What did you think when that happened? Did you think you were going crazy, or did you think you were just opening up?
No, I actually went crazy a long time ago. I would just was opening up a lot more, and I guess letting my wall down, so that I guess I could see more.
Yeah, I often say, I worked long and hard to be this crazy. It's nothing to take lightly, and I think we're all a degree of crazy, so I appreciate you for appreciating your craziness. My craziness appreciates your craziness. But, yeah, we're all a different degree of crazy. How could you not in this time in the world, in the United States? Like, there's so many things going on to keep us under, the foot of the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, working multiple jobs just to stay ahead. It's virtually impossible to have time with your family, so on and so forth. It's like a really crazy time in our lives. But, I don't know. It feels like something is changing in so many different ways. How do you feel, Charlie? Do you feel like you've had any changes going on in your life against your will, basically?
Pretty much all of them. No, I haven't had really too many changes lately. Mostly kind of the universe telling me, hey, you need to start learning to say no, which the only person I have the ability to say no to is myself, and I do that daily.
Right.
Otherwise,
it's so hard to
like,
say
hey,
no.
Boundaries.
Like,
it is time to set boundaries.
Right. You can do it,
Big,
Charlie.
beautiful
I
boundaries.
believe in you. That was one of the hardest things I had to do, too, because I was always like a people pleaser and so on and so forth. And so saying no was hard. And the more I say it, the more I like it. The more I like it.
Guilty.
You can't take care of yourself or other people unless you take care of yourself. So it's important to set those boundaries. But like I said, it's like that. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, it's like that constrictive pair of underwear. Like, at first it feels really weird and not a part of you, but then it becomes a part of you. So.
Yeah, once you get used to it, it feels really good to be able to say, you know what? I'd love to help you today, but I have this going on and I have to fix me. I can't pour from an empty cup. I got to be able to fix me. I got to be able to sit back, recharge. And especially if you're, extremely empathic, you have got to take time daily to recharge yourself, to let all the energies from all the people that you've dealt with that day go. You got to get them shed. You got to get grounded so you can get back on top of your A game.
It is definitely a work in process.
We'll get you there, buddy.
Baby steps.
It took me a long time, just saying.
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yes.
But yeah, you got to take baby steps, and it's kind of like dipping your toes in that spring of water, cold water, whatever. Like, ooh, at first it's like really chilly, but then, your body kind of gets used to it, so you can put more and more in slowly and slowly. And it's a time-driven process, but it will happen. But it is amazing, like, how many people have been dealing with that lately. So I want to know, what was the first job that you guys worked together paranormally?
Us three would be Charlie's house, or his mom's parents' house. And then we had a case in, what is that town in Kansas? Help me out, guys.
Shawnee.
Shawnee, yes, Shawnee, Kansas. That's the case that Charlie was talking about earlier. That was a doozy. Charlie, you looked up the history on the property down there. Why don't you tell a little bit about what you found?
Basically, Shawnee, during the Civil War, they trying to remember the man's name, William Quantrell. It was Quantrell's Raiders. They were actually responsible for the Lawrence massacre that happened. It was the Bushwhackers, basically, versus the Jayhawkers. And they used Shawnee, Kansas as practice. Basically burned the entire place down, killed people, stole horses, clothing. Basically just for fun. It was practice leading up to their invasion of Lawrence, Kansas.
There's so many things that happened in that area, the Trail of Tears, so on and so forth. My part of that is Cherokee, and that's what my mom was Cherokee. And she... five, almost six, but for sure different Native benefactors as far as First Nations people. It seems like if you are First Nations people, you do have certain gifts that others don't, but then Irish people, German people, a lot of different people have different variations of that. And so I think the whole mix that we get going on with everyone kind of helps that out. But it's interesting. So you're saying Shawnee for your family?
Thanks for talking to you, Charlie.
The Shawnee actually was just the town that we investigated. The house.
Yeah, that was the second case we had. The first case was his parents' home.
Okay, so do you think that was related to like Native or First Nations people burial ground, or what do you think? Where do you think that portal opened up, or how that began to happen? What did you guys figure out as far as that went?
On at his parents' house, there were definitely natives that we had to deal with. They were not happy. There is a field right behind their house with a little creek that ran through it. And a farmer evidently had dumped a bunch of stuff into that creek that he shouldn't have and contaminated that water. And it really ticked him off, on top of what happened way back when. So I talked to him a little bit. We took some offerings back, said, hey, okay, this is what we're going to do. There's some stuff sitting around here on the property. We're going to purify, your water here. We took some storm water out there and used that to purify the water. We gave the offerings. Stuff's being picked up, and essentially brokered a truce. Hey, we're going to take care of your property. We're going to help you. We're going to take care of these entities that are also bothering you. And that way everybody can have peace. And they were okay with that.
Well, it's interesting the way you deal with regular hauntings and native hauntings here. My oldest daughter, she's 20 now, but when she was in high school, she had a friend, And they went in and developed this property. They had oil rigs put on it, and they actually dug up bones. Instead of reburying and doing the proper thing, they just kind of left them laying willy-nilly. So this girl was seeing and hearing entities. They were constantly telling her negative things that she should do, so on and so forth. And I'm like, they need to get a shaman in there to help put these people to rest. I also went one night to the casino. I hate to gamble. I'll only spend $20. If I win, I'll spend another $20. If not, I'll just keep the money that I won. But I talked to this Ute girl, and I asked her about how they deal with unhappy spirits. And she said her mother made a plate of like bread and fruit and vegetables, so on and so forth, and put it out on the property. And she sat there at the window every day and would watch and wait for these spirits to come partake of it. And then she asked her mom, she's like, Mom, how come no spirits have gone out there and taken the fruits and vegetables and bread and so on and so forth? And she's like, they don't take the thing itself, they take like the essence of it. And she's like, here, try a bite of this apple. And she cut a piece of the apple off and gave her a bite of it. And it didn't taste like anything because they draw the essence from what you put out there. They don't actually take it.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so the first investigation was Charlie's parents' house. The second one, Charlie was telling us a bit about. What were the big key points of that particular investigation? What did you guys realize was going on there?
You want to take that, Charlie?
I will let you start, and I'll interject.
Okay. On top of the native issue that they had Misty helped me with the number. How many did we cross that night?
I thought we were in the realm of the 40s.
It was close to that.
40, 44, 43, I feel like.
At Charlie's mom's house?
No, I thought you were talking about Shawnee.
Charlie's mom's house.
Gosh, I don't remember. But there was quite a few, though.
I think it was in the teens. There was a little girl that liked to hide in the bathroom and the shower behind the curtain. There was up in the attic. Somebody had built in the room. There was a wall. There was a door. There's a crawl space behind there for storage. There was one in there. There was something in the closet by the base of the stairs. There was the woman in the kitchen. We got a real good EVP of her. Or actually, I had stated there's a woman in the kitchen to Missy. And right after that, we got an EVP from a male. I think it said the woman, or it's a woman. But there were several human entities. There were some not so nice non-human entities. One of them had taken up residency in his parents' closet. It was what I call a changeling. It can mimic voices. It can mimic people. You can be looking at this thing and it looks like you're talking to your wife or your husband or your son or your daughter. And your son or your husband or your daughter can be at Walmart while you're sitting here at home talking to this thing. They get home and they have no idea what you're talking about when you said you just had a conversation with them. It gets really interesting. They don't show their true form until they are threatened. Once you grab a hold of these things in order to take care of what needs to be taken care of, you see what they really look like. And the only way I can describe it is take like 100 different kinds of insects, throw them all together, and that's what you got. Ugly, nasty, and they got a really nice trick that they use to get you to leave them the hell alone. Excuse my French, heck alone.
No worries.
once they touch you, once you touch them, everything that's rolling around in your head and your heart that is bothering you throughout your entire life, they bring it up, they throw it at you at once to try to shock you into letting them go. It took me a while to figure out how to take care of these things. It takes a couple days to recover from that because you have to deal. But it actually helped me. It brought up things that I needed to work on, shadow work. But yeah, that was taken outside. It was dispatched. The human entities, we guided them all upstairs into the attic, and we crossed them all over at once.
Wow. And that's
That sound about right?
yeah, that's a big ordeal doing it all at once. Like sometimes it's like a shift and shuffle sort of thing, but like was that like a big explosion or how did that feel?
I opened the door and the rest of the team helped to guide them through. Once they let me know they were all gone through, I shut the door and it was good. Oh, there was the broken mirror upstairs. That had to be dealt with. It was a portal. Things were coming in and out through there. And where the mirror, it was laying on the floor and it was essentially shattered. There were some big pieces, but there was a lot of little pieces. That took quite a bit of work to deal with and get taken care of, but we got that done. There's something I'm forgetting, guys. Help me out.
The cellar.
Oh, yes.
There's probably a big reason you forgot that one. Something was probably blocking you.
Yeah, that's because I'm not supposed to tell that secret. There were two things that I had trapped in the cellar. They were actually there for a reason. I took them out and let them go. And that's all I can say about that.
Ruh-roh. So
it's actually a good
Andy
thing.
hit his head in the process.
Yep. Yes, I did. A couple times that night I hit my head.
Wonder what that was all about.
You being klutzy.
You never know. So what do you guys think about mirrors? I know there's old lore about when people pass, their spirit can go into mirrors. So when someone's passing, they'll go around and cover all the mirrors. Do you think that is fact or fiction?
From what I've found doing investigations, cleansing homes, not all mirrors are portals. They can be used, but you can feel and you can see which ones are being used. And you can there's ways you can use to shut them off. So you don't have to destroy the mirror. You don't have to get rid of it. But yeah, it's very real. They can come through mirrors. There are other dimensions out there. It's what we see as our reflection. They can just go into that and then come out another mirror somewhere. It's really weird. And people use mirrors in witchcraft and spell work to send things through. Had that happen before. Ended up taking it off the wall, setting it up down, taking a spray bottle, spraying it so this stuff that I put on it stuck, took cayenne pepper and a few other things, laid on it, hung it back up. That solved the issue. And for some odd reason, they were complaining of burning eyes on Facebook. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's weird how things do travel through the interweb.
Verification that what I saw was going on. So yeah, mirrors can be dangerous or they can be just a mirror.
Michelle, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've always viewed mirrors as a mode of transportation. Keith had mentioned, witchcraft, which I am a part of. So I, primarily will spellcast with mirror work When I need to reflect inwardly, there's certain positions to utilize mirrors to do that, or for scrying. I know that when we had the team over here with my parents, that I always say we, because I'm always here. My parents, we had something in their bedroom mirror. They have a huge chest of drawers with a mirror on top of it, and my father had inadvertently, with his brain injury, purchased an entire hotel room floor on auction. And so they brought a lot of the furniture from the hotel room back here. And through investigations and everything, there was an entity, a soul that we had to release from the mirror while we were cleansing out their house.
Yep.
And so, I believe that, that it is a portal. It can be a gateway. It's up to the user on, I guess, how they want to use or abuse the method.
Yeah, it's interesting. My wife had purchased a mirror from a hotel that they tore down in Kansas and brought it home. She got out of the car. I took one look at it. I'm like, you're not bringing that in the house. That is not house. No way.
Honey boo boo child. Better get rid of that and get a new one.
So we sat on the front porch, and I was standing on the front porch. And the next thing I know, something's trying to push me down the stairs. I'm like, oh, hell no. What's going on? The secretary had attached herself to that mirror. She loved to get up from her desk, walk over to the mirror, primp her hair, check her makeup. That was her mirror. When she passed, she attached herself to it. That was her mirror. So when Shannon brought the mirror home, she inadvertently brought his spirit home. So yeah, that had to be dealt with.
Yeah, that can be a really big handful. But good thing you caught on to it early.
Yeah, definitely. She wouldn't have caused any major issues. She just wanted the mirror hung up, but we had enough going on here. It's like, no, we don't need any more. That was the one I was talking about that was on the floor.
Okay. She's like, yeah,
yep,
remember the upstairs mirror? Okay. Yeah, so many crazy things can happen with that, and you can, like you said, go to a yard sale or go to a hotel that's getting rid of their beds and their mirrors and all kinds of other things because they're upgrading. It can be pretty crazy what you pick up and bring home. There was a certain haunting that happened with a wash basin that they'd used back in the day with the pitcher and the bowl, and it's really nice, as far as decorations in your house if you like artifacts like that, but it can tear your family apart.
Absolutely. Sometimes not so nice things attach themselves to those kind of things because another spirit is attached to that, and it's easy energy to feed off of.
For sure. So can you guys tell us a bit more about other investigations after your first and second? And like I said before, kind of paint a picture for our listeners so they can get that picture in their head of what you guys were going through, what experiences you had.
We don't do too many investigations or cleansings. We concentrate on the ones that are, not to push ego here, but like say dead files worthy. The ones that are putting people in danger. Most of the issues that a lot of people have that contact me can be dealt with one-on-one, over the phone or through a video chat, a couple hours and it's taken care of. Others have to be examined, researched, and then we got to put, boots on the ground on that property. So since Charlie's joined, it was just his parents' house and then in Shawnee, Kansas. Missy, those two. Which other ones were you on, Missy? You know my memory, it's shot because of my boo-boo on the brain.
I've had that since Tuesday. My
Um,
brain has been basically fried. I can't think of anything. Earlier, I was like to my
yeah,
daughter,
we
what is that band with the guy who does that show with the chairs? And she's like, Maroon 5. I'm like, thank you so much for bringing my memories back. Go ahead, Michelle. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I mean, collectively, since I've been with Keith, I know we hit a community theater in Beatrice. Keith and I go back, so outside of Cobra, we have, some investigations under our belt.
We had that hotel in that one city.
Klondike in Manila.
Yep. And
Yep.
then the Burwood Hotel in Beatrice. That one was very, very active. And going through the EVPs, what I noticed, and this really blew my mind. I really had to sit back and think about this. Listening to the EVPs, caught, there were spirits there still thinking they're alive, going through their daily routine in their apartment. They thought we were the spirits invading them. We got EVPs like, did you see that? Did you hear that? We got ghosts. I mean, the EVPs were off the hook, and it really, really made me think about the different realms. Were we crossing into the paranormal realm? Were we crossing into another dimension? Were we stepping back in the past? It really makes you sit back and think when you get stuff like that. That play, I want to go back there sometime. I want to do some
Well, and
research.
by the end of the night, we were chased out by bats too.
Yes, that too. Yeah, that too. Yeah. That place was heavy. It was hard to be in there. In fact, my wife, she had to leave. I mean, it was, she couldn't breathe. There was so much pressure on her chest when we walked upstairs. She had to leave.
Well, and I think by the
Now,
midway through, we had determined, because I was with my other team at that point, but it was determined that the men actually made the determination that no female should be in there because it was just so aggressive towards us.
oh yeah, the male spirits were very aggressive towards the females in there. Yeah, it wasn't safe.
And what was this place again?
It's called the Burwood Hotel in Beatrice, Nebraska.
Ooh. So did this used to be like a whorehouse, basically, before it became a hotel? Or what exactly was going on that premises prior to people passing away and such? Or was it an owner, perhaps, that didn't look fondly upon females? What was going on there?
What I'm taking away is there was a murder behind a bar. The guy got stabbed. People passing away, not only in there, but elsewhere that lived there, and they, it's their apartment. They came home. Some of them didn't realize they were dead. So they came back home. They're going through their normal routine. Some of them knew they were gone, and they don't want to cross because of things they've done. They were afraid of judgment, and so they hang out there, and that is their space, and we are not allowed in there. We caught a guy screaming, get the F out. Stuff like that. And, seeing full-bodied apparitions. You see one here, you look, you see it running off, you turn back around because you feel something. There's another one behind you. I mean, this place is off the hook. What else do we do? Oh, I'm blanking out.
Dempster's?
Yeah, there's Dempster's here in Beatrice. That place, there was a lot in there. No, up in Iowa.
Malvern?
Yes, thank you. Malvern
Welcome.
Manor in Iowa.
That place is
place
so active and crazy.
Yes, it is. I told Josh that he needs to make T-shirts that say "I got molested at Malvern" because I was.
Right?
Yeah, it was not a pretty experience. I had to get out of there for a little while.
Wasn't that the place where the little girl was hung in the closet and her brother didn't know what
Yes.
happened and everybody was trying to blame him? But I don't think he did it. I think it was that
No, he did.
that entity taken over or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't the brother.
Yeah, it was the fondler.
Yeah. Dempster's here in town. That is a factory that has been in this town forever and a day. They made windmills. They made water pumps. Really helped to get the farming industry going, back when the state was starting. Again, there's people that were so attached to their jobs when they passed, they kept going back and working every day. They're going to be tearing that building down. So it was kind of important. My grandpa worked there. So it was kind of important for me to make sure that who was there is crossed over before that building comes down. That way they don't go and spread out to the homes in that area, because you don't want a bunch of ticked off spirits invading, the nearby homes. Not only did we encounter those spirits that we crossed, we got about 30, 35 that one night. We've been there a few times, but we also experienced something. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. Steve from the Spirit Mechanics had to explain to me what it was. When I saw this thing, I'm like, "Hey, Steve, are you seeing this?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll talk about that later." Like, okay, so we go off in a corner. Everybody talks about demons. Well, there's also something called daemons.
Diamonds.
Different spelling, different entity, but very similar.
Gnome Drew in the chat room was saying the attic is very well active. Did you have that experience as well?
The attic where?
At the Malvern Manor.
Probably in Malvern.
Yeah, Malvern Manor.
Oh,
he said
yeah.
he did an overnight there as far as security, I think, or perhaps he did an overnight investigation. But he said that the activity there is pretty intense.
Absolutely.
And I'm picking up on a spirit collector, because you're mentioning all these different spirits there. Like, to me, that only makes sense. And this thing only grows stronger by more spirits that it collects.
And there are things out there that do that. They use that. They rein them in. They hold them kind of hostage, and they use them to pull energy. But yeah, that attic is very active. We were up there with Johnny Hauser and help me out, Missy. Who was there that night? Dustin Perry, yes. And
He's
we were
cool.
getting quite a bit of activity up there. Yeah, it was a really cool night up there that night. Getting back to the demon thing at Dempster's, it had a job to do. It pretty much told us, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. I got this job to do. Don't mess with me or I'm going to take you out. It was actually kind of hanging bodies on an assembly line and shipping them out. But it wasn't human bodies. It was non-human entities. It was there to keep a balance. So we left it alone. It's since been moved, by the way. So when they tear that building down, it's not affected.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of times people will build new structures on old land and they'll be like, why is my structure haunted? It's a brand new place. Well, there's certain things that attach to the land and not generally the house.
Absolutely.
Gnome Drew in the chat room was saying also, when he did the overnight at Malvern Manor, he said I slept in the old dining hall, and he saw spirits all night long check in and look at their group. So he said that was Father's Day weekend. And it's pretty interesting, like, you know, a lot of times if they're residual spirits, they won't recognize that you're there. But if they're intelligent, which a lot of these are, they do know you're there. And a lot of times you'll know they're there.
Yep, absolutely. Some of them are pranksters. They like to mess with you. Others are curious. Others want help. Others want to go home, as in, you know, cross over, go back to their loved ones. If they're intelligent, they can come to you and talk with you, or pull your hair, or, you know, lay their hand on your arm, say, "Hey, I'm here. I need help." That kind of brings me to scratches. Everybody thinks that scratches are nothing but evil and demonic. Exactly. It can be something as simple as an energy transfer. Everything is energy. They are energy. Our souls are energy. Our bodies work on energy, electrical and chemical. Science has proven that energy can't be destroyed. It can only change form. So when we die, what happens to our energy? It becomes our soul. When they touch us, that's an energy transfer, and it can leave a bruise. It can leave a scratch. If you're getting scratched by something negative, you're going to know it. It's going to burn.
Yeah, and I had an experience like that where I got scratches, but it looked like it scratched along my pant line, so I only received 2, but it was burning really bad, and I had just come off the front porch from smoking, so I was like, okay, perhaps a spider got under my shirt and bit me, and I looked, and I saw the 2 long scratches. I carry different things in my toolkit because I believe in so many different random things from different religions and spiritual realms, so on and so forth. And I went and grabbed my spray bottle of holy water and sprayed it on there. Within 5 minutes, it was gone. But then it happened about 2 days later where it was 3 distinct scratches, sprayed it again. I felt really weird, like I had been drugged or something, very lightheaded, dizzy, like an altered sort of personification of everything. But I sprayed it again. It took longer that time to get rid of it. But I don't think it was anything demonic. I think it was something trying to scare me away from the case that I was working on. And I do think spirits can do that. They're trying to get your attention, and they're swiping at you and hitting at you and trying to get anything to work. And all of a sudden, perhaps the edge of its fingertips will scratch you, or something like that could happen. Trying to reach out, trying to make that communication in any way they can. And it's kind of a learning process on that side as well. Not everybody goes over there knowing everything, so it's kind of a learning process at school to where you do learn how to harness that energy and use it. And I think a lot of times it's just a spirit trying to reach out, as opposed to a demonic entity trying to harm you.
Exactly. They can be trying to warn you that, hey, there's something nasty here. You need to go away. And what's that show, that movie, Ghost? Patrick Swayze, you know, when he first dies, he can't do anything. And then he runs into that guy in the subway who's trying to get a pack of cigarettes out of the cigarette machine.
Right.
He smashes that cigarette machine, but he can't pick it up. You know, it's a learning curve. You know, once you pass away, that's a totally new experience. You're nothing but energy. You got to learn how to harness it, gain it, use it. If you go to touch somebody and you use too much, you can send them flying across the room. If you don't use enough, you're not going to get anybody's attention. So, you know, there can be a fine line there.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. And there's so many questions about the other side that we're all trying to answer, and different things that we're trying to discover. And we'll talk again on the next portion for the 3rd hour about different tools and different ways you guys use it, and how you use the scientific or other methods to try to gain answers of the other side. But on that note, we are going to go to our second break. We got Michaelan Hay again from Ontario, Canada. We got Tracy Cruz from Oakland, California. And we have Mr. Fred Johnson III from Canyon Country, California. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this musical break.
I dove right in. Didn't bring a parachute. Fell right cleanse my soul and wash away all the pain.
You wash every part.
Your love lives higher than all of the stars in the sky.
So high.
I made a wish on you to be by my side. You loving me, I feel like flying. You loving me, I feel like crying. Tears of joy fall from the sky to make us smile. Your love outshines all the rays of the morning light.
It's so bright.
I'm so blinded by your love that glows inside.
You always shine.
Your love is deeper than all of the roots of the trees.
It's so deep.
Thank you for planting your heart right next to me. You loving me, I feel like flying. You loving me, I feel like crying. Tears of joy fall from the sky to make us smile. Can make us smile, can make us smile. You loving me, like I feel like crying. Tears of joy fall from the sky to make us smile. Let your love rain down on me. We will grow so tall and free. I will shade all the pain that life will bring. Our love can weather anything. You loving me, I feel like flying. You loving me,
I feel like crying.
tears of joy fall from the sky to make us smile. You loving me, I feel like flying. You loving me, I feel like crying. Tears of joy fall from the sky to make us smile. To make us smile, to make us smile. I feel like crying. You loving me, I feel like crying. Tears of joy, smile to make me smile a million times. You loving me, I can't describe your love. I can't describe your love. It makes me smile. You make love worthwhile.
Now I can see how much your love has affected me. Everything you do makes me smile.
Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. The tension's overbearing. Wondering, are you coming back home again? To inspire fondness with love. Where did our love go wrong? My sugar.
Welcome back, you guys, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm so glad you guys could join us. We have Cobra Paranormal with Mr. Keith Ottersberg, Charlie. I don't know why Charlie's name has been so hard for me tonight, but Charlie Bruner and Michelle Dyer. You guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for sharing your experiences, paranormal and the like.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So we were talking a little bit on the break about these different entities and hauntings. How exactly do you guys go in and deal with these different things as far as cleansings and other practices?
Every case is different. We take each case on a case-by-case basis. We look at the client, what their situation is. We take a look at what's there, what we know is there. And you won't ever know what is totally there until you get on property. So you always have to be prepared for the worst, if you know what I mean. Take your full arsenal. If you only need a little bit of it, that's fine. But, have it with you. I just totally lost my train of thought. Wow.
Well, it is true. Like every entity or spirit, there's always a different story, and that's what keeps it interesting. And instead of being very downtrodden and, same thing every time, you have a different story, a different puzzle to figure out. There's always a different way to deal with something that's out there in the world for us.
Absolutely. A lot of times they get stuck here. They're confused. They don't know their past. That's very difficult to deal with, because trying to explain to an entity that you're not alive anymore and you're not supposed to be here and you need to go into this really bright light over here, it can really kind of upset them a little bit, and it can cause things to happen. So you got to be kind of careful there. A lot of teams out there, and I used to be guilty of this because I didn't know any better. They'll walk in, they'll get the evidence, they'll do the investigation, do the EVP sessions, what have you, use their equipment. And at the end of the night, they'll walk through and wave some white sage around, and that's supposed to make everything go away. White sage is for your everyday negativity. Classic example is husband has a bad day at work, comes home, vents to his wife. That's negativity coming out. Where does it go? Into the house. Gets the sage out, pushes it out the door. You use sage with a really negative entity, either ticked off human spirit, or that's been around a long time and is strong, or a non-human entity. And it's going to be like blowing smoke in a non-smoker's face who's, 6'4", 300 pounds. It's going to tick him off, and he's going to start throwing you around a little bit. It's kind of our staple when we do a big cleansing like this. It's kind of the formula 409 of smudges. Is we take a charcoal disc and then burn copal, it's a tree resin, dragon's blood, another tree resin, and then Palo Santo at the same time, and it pretty much knocks whatever's left in there out, and then we'll go through it with sage to get the residual out.
That's interesting how you do that, because like Palo Santo for me, I don't even have to burn it. I'll just take it out if I'm feeling anxiety or a negative spirit or whatever, and I just smell it and it makes me feel better. It helps to calm my nerves, so on and so forth. When I do a cleansing, I'll do the sage first, and then I'll finish up around the doorways and the windows with Palo Santo. Sometimes salt, depending on what we're dealing with, but Holywood. And I've heard recently that it's actually becoming quite scarce because people use it so much.
Yep, that's why we only use it in the nastiest cases.
And that's also why I say, like, you don't even have to light it. If you have one, like a cone, which is like bits of Palo Santo put together, or a stick, just smell it. And that'll help you get rid of that anxiety and that fear, so on and so forth. And put your intent forward, like when you're doing this. And a lot of times people will feel like they need people from the outside to come in and take care of this. But it's really important for the head of household or for whoever lives in that house to put their foot forward and put that intent out there that, only love and light can stay, and anything dark or negative has to leave. When you're doing the staging or smudging, you have to put that intent forward. You can't just go around going, okay, now I'm putting this smoke, this is going to work. No, you have to say either out loud, and I believe in your head as well, because I know that I can communicate through my thoughts with different entities, but in your head or out loud, whichever you feel is more powerful, put that intent forward as you're saging. Do you, when you do this, keep a window cracked, or are you like me where I like to get that house really, really full of smoke where it goes to any crack and crevice, and then open up a portal for that thing to exit wherever it needs to?
I'll go through, and as I'm smudging, I will collect negative energy, and I will drag it with me from room to room while I'm collecting the negative energy from the next room. And I go around, and then I get to a door. I have one of the people open the door for me, and it goes right out the door.
That's good.
Some people will shut, a bedroom door, open a window, and push it out the window. Nothing wrong with that. Doing it room by room like that. Nothing wrong with that.
I've also noticed that when people do this, they forget to open up the attic or different areas that aren't generally readily available to general household, places you wouldn't usually go, but that's where things like to hide. Okay, so if you have a lot of clutter in your house, they'll hide in that, or they'll go into the attic or the basement or somewhere where you don't generally go, someplace that you don't generally think of. Yeah,
and you mentioned clutter. The cleaner your house, the better you're going to feel about it, the more positive you're going to be. The more positive you are, the stronger you're going to be, so it's going to be easier to keep the negative crap out of your home. A lot of people don't understand that. We walked into some homes in the past, especially when I was on some other teams, and we had to turn around and walk right out. Dog feces all over the floor. The smell overwhelmed you. I don't understand how people can live like that, but I've watched hoarders. It's a condition. But when you live like that in such filth and clutter, you can't feel good about your house. So, it's going to be very easy for these things to just come right on in. Most of the places we deal with now, though, are A-okay with that. These people keep a clean house. It's just they are, had some bad luck. Moved into a house that was already haunted, or the house was built on a piece of land that was desecrated. That's what we've been finding here lately.
Yeah, and like I was saying, but my mic was muted. I was saying, like, people with these certain things going on, there's turds laying all over the place. The cat box hasn't been cleaned. You got boxes of clutter everywhere. Like, these are different degrees of depression or PTSD. Some people don't want me to mention that, but it is real for so many different aspects. You don't have to be in the military to have PTSD. Right. You could be a rape victim, a molestation victim. You could witness a horrific death or have a horrific death, so on and so forth. But it allows places for these different dark entities to hide. The dust isn't going to penetrate, or the smoke isn't going to penetrate everything, so they'll hide in these different things. So that's why we tell people, if your house is cluttered, please make sure it's cleaned first. That way, when we come in to cleanse, we can do the best job we can. Most times we go in and it's fine. One time we went in and we told them we needed a quiet place. We need people to be quiet and reverent and like partaking of this and paying attention, we show up and people are having a bonfire party, and we went out the outside of this place, and then we went to the inside, and it was so crazy. Like, some of our empathic people couldn't even get up the stairs. It was so crazy with energy, and they're being loud and irreverent, and it just seemed like it worked against what we were trying to do. And we actually, several of us got attacked that night because of the different energy that different people were putting off, instead of being into this investigation and taking reverence in it, and like taking it for what it is. You got to put your foot forward, do this, do that, not be drinking, smoking weed. And one of our members is highly allergic to weed. And these people are smoking on the front porch. So she's running to and fro the house, holding her breath because these people are smoking. And one of our girls went out, and we're like, where'd she go? So I went out to check on her, and she was hiding in her car. And she said there was this, I'm sorry, I'm so cold. My voice sounds funny, but she was hiding in her vehicle. And I'm like, what's going on? And she said, I came out to get the sweetgrass because I had forgotten it. And there was this tall entity. It was over 7 foot tall, and it was standing there at first, and then it rushed me. So I got into my vehicle. And I was like, come out, we'll help you out. And then by this time, another member, Jamie, who's a pagan, she showed up, and she started cleansing her. And at that point, I started feeling really, really sick and really nauseous. And I'm like, I think I need that too. I think something's trying to take me over. And it was just really weird how, step by step these things can happen, and you don't recognize it at first. Generally, I'd pull up on a property and feel what's going on, but we'd pull through there. Okay, something's off here. We couldn't figure it out. But then this dark entity tried to attack several of us for us trying to help these people. And there is a high degree of offense that goes against you, like things trying to attack you and keep you from doing this. But you got to stay strong in what you're doing and have faith in it, and try to help these people.
Yeah, you got to be able to concentrate. You got to figure too, when you have that many people there putting off that much energy, that's all the more energy they have to pull and manifest.
Yeah, people are drinking, getting high, screaming whoop whoop around the fire, and okay, that's all good. They're not a part of us, but it actually is feeding that entity.
And alcohol and drug use, you don't have a clear mind, so you don't have your normal faculties to push stuff out. It's a lot easier for something to move right on in.
So, Michelle, Charlie, did you guys have anything to add to this?
I mean, I know as far as like the cleansings and all of that, one of the things that I appreciate about being a part of this family is that, when Keith and I had first started talking about, because I'm the case manager, how we wanted, like an order of things to kind of pan out. We always take whomever we're helping, like their beliefs into consideration, and, their religious beliefs, or, whatever it may be, so that, we're tapping the right avenues. Because, I'm a firm believer in, you can go in, say you're going into a native space. If you're not, going to utilize a shaman or a healer or anything, within a native space, then that might just offset the energy enough to where it's not going to happen. So that was always been one of my things, as far as all of that.
Yeah, you need to know, be prepared for, what you're going to be dealing with. If you're walking in somebody's house who has a different religion than you need to do your homework on that religion, on the types of entities that that religion believes in, because that's probably what you're going to be dealing with instead of what you're used to.
How about you, Charlie? Like, what do you think about this?
I'm still the young pup. So I have still got the training wheels on sometimes.
But what does your gut tell you?
In general, or specifically about
It could be
the
like in
cleansing?
general or from case to case. Do you ever pick up on something that nobody else does? Do you get this gut influxation that comes through that you're like, I don't feel like this is right. I think this is what we should do. Or, I don't know, do you get a general feeling about it? Does anything ever come up when you go on different cases where you feel like there's something that needs to be done that nobody else picks up on?
Generally not. I think while we have different gifts, we're generally in sync.
Yeah, that is true.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
That's good.
I
And
mean,
it's
we're like
cool
a
that
we're like a
happens.
three-legged dog.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
might
cool how
see
that
something
happens.
where I might see something where Missy feels it, which leads to verification. Charlie might see a different avenue of what I see, which gives us more information. There's Matt, there's Lisa. We got other members of the team. We've all got different gifts, but we all work real well together. And when we walk into a place together, we got about everything covered.
So when you go on investigation, is there a certain tool that each one of you likes to use that you feel like you get the most interaction or most power off of? And we'll start with Charlie this time.
Oh boy. Like I said, I'm still pretty new. I actually haven't worked with, I guess, many of the tools. I've mostly just gone off of my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
That is yet to let me down.
Yeah. Gut instinct, number one. It will never let you down. Your head can
There you go.
overthink, your heart can overfeel, but your gut is right on track. And a lot of people don't realize that, so that's cool. You got that going on, Charlie. Even though you're wet behind the ears, you're on the right track.
Absolutely. Proud of that boy. He's doing good.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
He's our human lie detector.
That's what I call myself. I am a human lie detector, and my husband looks at me like, oh, yeah, right. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Don't deny it. I can tell you who's telling the truth and who's not. Like, if you lie to me, like, I don't know if my ears change position or what, but I know when somebody's lying and somebody's telling the truth. Do you get pissed off when people lie, Charlie? Or offended? Like, you get this certain feeling when people lie, you're just like,
Not really. I don't get offended. I don't really ever get upset. It's almost entertaining for me.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I know you're lying. You know you're lying.
So you want to give this story another try?
It's like, do you want to try this again?
Right? You have three chances.
You can even give them hints, and they still don't take it, and they keep lying to you. I'll let you lie to me, but it's going to come out eventually. Let's see how far this goes.
Sometimes I've let it go pretty far.
Because it's entertaining, right? You're like,
it really is.
How much rope can I give them before they hang themselves?
Sometimes you're feeding them rope and they're running faster than you can feed it to them.
And then you see the whole yank effect, and you're like,
oh, ouch.
It's like when you let your dog go after the squirrel, and they run out, and then they hit the end of the rope, and they go flying, and yeah.
Yes, I know. I see that picture in my head. That's why I'm laughing. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything always comes out. It's just a matter of time.
Well, eventually, Charlie, you'll get more used to it and less amused by it, and you'll try to get to the shortcut of it and be like, all right, I know you're lying. You need to just give it up right now, and so on and so forth. But right now, you're just enjoying the whole Yankee chain thing going on, which I appreciate. It is pretty hilarious.
It is. I've been 33 years on this planet, and it has not gotten old yet.
Right? Still waiting for the day. It might arrive.
Nope.
Might not.
I'll be 80 years old in a nursing home when that happens.
Yeah. Or on the other side, still laughing at it.
Don't tell me this is regular. I know this is sugar-free.
It's got stevia or something in it. This ain't sugar. This is the other sugar.
The nasty sugar.
Oh. All right, so trying to move on. But yeah, I'm still seeing that person like just running as fast as they can with what they think people are buying, because they always think they're smarter than everyone else, but in reality, they're not. So have you guys dealt with many of those cases where somebody's looking for attention or that 15 minutes of fame, and they're kind of coming in on your Peace Corps and messing everything up?
There's really only been one, and it never got to actually be a case. We all kind of picked up on that, that fame thing, the attention thing, and I took a break from reaching out, and all of a sudden they started, griping on Facebook again. Oh, we're having all this activity, we're going through heck. It's like, you know what? We offered to help you, and then you quit communicating with us. That pretty much told us, this is an attention thing. So if you're not serious about getting the help, we can't help you. You have to want that help in order to help yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to lead a dead horse to water. Like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And there's been times that we've done investigations and we're like, hey, we think this is coming from your past offenses against you, like being abused, being neglected, being abandoned. She was in a group home. She had all these things going on, and we're like, we think you need counseling, psychological help. I think this is where a lot of this is happening. These things that are grabbing your husband by the feet and dragging him off the place he sleeps is like actually in your head. You need to go and get help. And, certain people think that it's somebody else's fault, so they don't go and get the help. And then they call you again, and they're like, there's more spirits here now. Well, if you don't take the advice we give you and go get the help, because we asked them, hey, did your old lady go and get the counseling and the psychological help she needed? No. Well, if you don't take the advice we give you, we can't help you. Once you take those steps to help yourself, then we can come back in and help you. Had you done that, but they hadn't, and now there's more. And I think they latch onto that. They see that little chink in the armor, that depression, that different things going on in people's lives, and they latch on and they feed off of it, these negative entities.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Aftercare with these clients is imperative. They're used to the negative energy. They're used to things happening. So we walk in, and when we leave, there's nothing left. There's no paranormal activity left. There's no entities. There's no spirits. The place is clean. We bring it back to a ground zero balance. So the next day they wake up and it's quiet, and they don't know what to do. They're used to it. They almost miss it. And that's dangerous, because it's like pulling, say you got a coke addict and you pull his cocaine. Guess what? He's going to start going into withdrawals. So you need to help that person not go back to that drug. The human body can get used to negative energy. And once that body gets used to that, it's still looking for it. So that client, it takes a lot of work, a lot of education to keep them from pulling something negative back in.
Mhm.
You got to be there for them. You got to help them. You got to educate them. It's a lot of work, but it's so worth it. When they video call you a few weeks later with a big smile on their face saying, "Hey, we're still paranormal free. Thank you." That's what this is all about for us.
So what do you guys think about demons, or you were spelling it differently, daemons, and taking possession of you? Some advice I've given people in the past is a demon is like a scuba diver. You have so much oxygen on your back. You go down. If you're feeding off this negative energy from the certain person or whatever, it's all good. But once that person learns to rewire itself as far as thinking, reacting, so on and so forth, and reacting with positive inflections and positive ways of doing things instead of the whole off-the-cuff negative thing going on, if you rewire to the positive, this thing doesn't have anything to feed off of. So once its tank runs out, then it has to go somewhere else. What are your thoughts on demons or daemons or whatever you call it?
Well, your demons, like I said, they are here. They have a specific job they are supposed to do for the universe. You leave them alone, they leave you alone. Your demonic, you've got demonic type entities, and then you've got your demons. A human spirit that's been here for a long time and has gained strength can seem very demonic. It can make itself look demonic. So you really have to verify that what you're looking at is what you're looking at. We had one case where one of the investigators, who's not with us anymore, but saw this big red beast, on this property, and we got a demon. I'm like, wait, step back a minute, because I was feeling something different. Let's take a step back and look at what we got. It turned out that it was a human spirit trying to scare us away because we were trying to help, the people. Didn't know us, didn't want us on the property, which is understandable. But the spirit had been burned in a campfire on purpose, murdered. So it was on fire. That's why it looked big and red, all the flames. This is going to sound weird. I do Reiki and I'm triple water. Mm-hmm. So I actually Reiki'd this thing with water. And by the time I was done, there was this human native spirit standing there soaked to the gills, looking at me like, you really just did that. I'm like, yeah, it's time to move on. He's like, okay, thank you. And that was as simple as that. So you have to verify what you think you're dealing with is really what you're dealing with. Make sense?
It really does. And I'm seeing different pictures of different cases that I've come across where the dead is actually able to pass that message on, like whether they pull that person's hair out, they get that person's skin under its nails, even though they try to burn that person, they don't stick around long enough to make sure the job is done. Like they run off with their tail tucked between their legs to try to protect themselves. Sometimes they get so caught up in it, they have to be the one reporting it because other people are going to notice it and see him driving away. But, I mean, the evidence is going to come through one way or another. No matter how much you try to cover your tracks, the dead still speaks. And that's what I love about what we do. And I'm still waiting for a chance to be able to crack a case. But Robbie Thomas, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's coming on this next month. And he does cold cases and works for the police all the time and have actually been able to bring answers to people that have missing loved ones.
Yeah, it's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me your story.
Yeah, I got to know Robbie through Facebook. We are actually working on a missing persons case down here. I'm not going to go into detail on, but he's given me some advice on this. And with any luck, we're going to crack this sucker and put the responsible party where they need to belong, which is behind bars. But he is so awesome. He is so good at what he does. Awesome individual.
Are you still there, Keith? Like you were talking and then you're gone.
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were talking about
Okay.
when you guys first got together and then it cut out and there was silence. So I think something's trying to keep you from talking, but continue on with what you were saying, please.
Okay. You asked me to touch base on Robbie Thomas. I got to know him through
Yes.
Facebook. Yeah. We are actually working on a missing persons case here where we live. And, he's through Facebook, he's given me some advice. About all I can say on it, but yeah, he's an awesome individual. Very, very, very talented at what he does. Love the heck out of the guy.
Yeah, he looks like a big old grizzly bear, but I think he's a big old teddy bear, and I think he's out there for the greater good. I know I was doing a different show, not for myself or my friends, but for another person that was my friend at the time, and I tried to get him to come on my show, and he's like, have you read?
Mhm.
Police actually admit to working with Robbie Thomas, and so
Absolutely.
Shar, if you call in, and Latanya, if you call in, that'd be awesome for the 15th of next month. Sorry, I was muted for a second, but I just want you guys to know that because he is so good at what he does. Do you agree or not, Keith?
Absolutely, I agree. I've got his book sitting over here on my coffee table. If you haven't read it, get it, read it. Yeah, amazing person.
For sure. And I know Shar's had, things on her mind that she thinks happened and things that were said to happen. And I think if he could come through and let her know, that would give her peace to be able to move on with her life fully like her son wants her to. And then my cousin Latanya, just the answering of questions. And that'd be so amazing. And he has the gift to do that. So I'm really excited for February 15th. It's going to be an awesome date. And I'm so glad that you know him too. So he did actually help you with your own sort of cold case going on?
Yeah, kind of in process.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just, giving advice and stuff. So yeah.
So when you guys go out on project, what is your favorite tool to use? I know that Michelle said it was like her gut instinct, or was that you, Keith?
That was Charlie.
Charlie. Okay, Charlie. Let's go to Michelle next. What is your favorite tool to take on investigation?
I kind of have an abundance of tools, I guess. I don't have anyone in particular. If I had to choose a favorite, I guess it would probably be my Boo Buddy, which is a little EMF bear. He's kind of my favorite. I always seem to get really good interaction with him, especially, I don't know, it's not one that you frequently see out there, so I always think, spirits or entities light up and go, oh, something different to play with. So I carry him around a lot. Other than that, I'm a pretty sound, I'm not going to say reader, but I'm more of a feeler. And
Empath?
yeah. So I kind of am just guided emotionally into certain areas. So yeah. A lot of my arsenal is just how I feel or, what atmosphere I pick up any energies from. And I also have a guide who helps me along. So
He's awesome.
him and I work in tandem and we make a pretty good team. So yeah.
Love your guide, girl. Love your guide.
Yes, he's a good fella. Him and I have
Yes.
been together for many years.
And if you mess up,
he lets her know? So,
Yes.
do you know this person? Is this like a distant relative of yours, or is this somebody that perhaps knew you from a past life and wants to help you through this life? Who do you think your guide is?
You know, he's always kind of been on the outer rim of my life since I was younger. I wasn't aware of him fully until my grandfather passed. And I was young. My grandfather passed. My mom was the one who actually had found him after swearing she would never go in to find anybody. She did, unfortunately. And I remember laying in her bed. She was in the bathroom crying, in the master bath, so I could look directly across and, just see her in there bawling. She was grappling really hard with the last vision of finding him and stuff. It wasn't pleasant, nor was it expected. But I remember laying in her bed. I have no clue where my father was, but I was laying here in her bed just crying with her because I couldn't help her. But I was in what I like to call the sweet spot. So like half awake, not fully awake, still sort of asleep in my little realm. And I remember crying in my sleep, so to speak. And he is an elderly gentleman. It's going to sound so weird, but he just kind of like wrapped himself around me, and it was the best feeling in the world. It was instant calm and peace. And, he was talking to me, and I was, please don't go away. I begged him not to leave me because the phone was ringing, but the phone really wasn't ringing. It just whatever woke me up told me the phone was ringing. It really wasn't.
Oh, wow.
And him and I have been together ever since. I mean, emotional firestorms, he's been there. When things aren't right, he always alerts me.
Yep.
Charlie had talked about our case in Kansas, and he actually, his name is Frank. I will give him credit. Frank is my guide. He was the one who actually prevented me from going into the garage. Just because I have a very hard time dealing with, like my friend, when he took his life, he had hung himself. And so, getting any visions of that, it's like a PTSD. It sets me back a little bit.
Yeah.
He's kind of, he's my guide. He prevents me from even running into demons or very extreme negative cases. He's kind of the one who always says, we don't go there. So he's probably my favorite tool.
Yeah, he's helped me out a time or two.
Yeah.
That's awesome when it rubs off, like, because you guys are so tight-knit, you get the benefit of that as well.
Yeah. We are.
Yeah, we're all very fluid. Charlie doesn't like to talk about himself a whole lot, so I will take a moment to brag about Charlie and his little radar gifts.
Thank you. Been waiting for that.
He does not give himself enough credit, and while he may seem wet behind the ears, he certainly is not.
Correct.
Right? The quiet ones you got to really look out for, because one day, bam, we're like, damn,
Yes,
I didn't know
exactly.
you had that behind you, Charlie.
Exactly. Yep. And then, talking about when him and Keith have very similar facial expressions. And it's funny because when you can tell that somebody is trying to portray something that's not exactly accurate, they will both look at me and they both have this same exact stare where their head tilts down and their eyes are darting right at me. And I'm like, yes, I know.
It's like that one scene on Forrest Gump when he's reunited with his son and they're watching the TV together and their heads all tilted the same way. They have the same expression. Kind of like that.
Yes. Yes.
Circles.
Yes.
Perhaps you guys were related in a past life. That's
Yeah,
so
And
that's
that-
funny.
pretty interesting.
Or you're,
That is one thing.
go ahead.
We're a soul family.
Yeah.
We're a soul tribe. We've known each other before. We've signed contracts to come back and do this very thing. There's no doubt in my mind.
And that's so cool when you get the message of what your reason here is, what your job is here. And a lot of people don't get that. And what's the meaning of life, so on and so forth. Like, we're put here to raise each other up, help each other, so on and so forth, instead of a lot of people are tearing each other down. But we're here to help each other through this process. And for you guys to be doing what you're doing to help people either get along with the spiritual entities in their house or realize who it is to where they're not scared anymore, or just let them know they're not batshit crazy. Like, that is so important. I'm so glad you guys are out there to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, we're healers. In some aspect, we are all healers in our own specific ways.
So Shar in the chat room said, I didn't sign any contract, and a lot of people don't agree with that. Like, part of my religious upbringing, we do know where we're going, what's going to happen. We might not realize it in this lifetime, but before we knew where we were going, said, yeah, I want to go there. I want to experience life, even if it's to this extent. But I don't remember signing a contract either, but I do know that I knew what my life was, and I accepted it. And it's been really hard, but there's a lot of things that made me the person I am today. So what do you think about the whole soul contract? Do you actually sign on the dotted line, or do you see a preview of what's to come and say, yes, I want to experience life, or are you just thrown into it willy-nilly?
I don't have specific memories of signing a soul contract up there and coming back. However, there is that soul connection with these people. It's felt, it's here, it's real. And we're not going to remember signing any contract until we pass on and go back up to where we get all of our memories back. We come back, and this is my opinion, got to throw that in there. We come back for a specific purpose, to learn something, to experience some kind of feeling. Everybody's reason is different. We come back to teach somebody, to help somebody. A soulmate might be somebody you walk by on the street when you're having a bad day and looks up at you and smiles, and it makes you smile, and then they're gone. Some can be your significant other. Some can be your brother, your sister, your friend. It's such a big subject. It's hard to describe. It's hard to explain. Some people believe in it. Some people don't. I'm not going to try to convince those that don't that it's a real thing. But in my mind, in my world, it is a real thing. And that's what put this team together.
What are your thoughts, Charlie? Sorry, my mic was muted.
You're fine.
It's okay. So was mine.
High five.
I would have to agree with Keith. I don't think we're supposed to remember while we're here that we actually signed a contract. Because if we did and we knew why we were coming back here, I don't think half of us would live past like the age of 10. Be like, this is the lesson I got to learn. Okay, learned it. Moving on.
Next lesson.
Yep. You can't rush through. I want to say life, but not necessarily this life. I think your journey together, your all around journey, It's all about little lessons. And like I said, you can't come back and know what lesson you're supposed to learn, because then you just learn it right away and move on to the next and the next. And
Well,
you
yeah, and
pass that exam with flying colors.
right? And a lot of people focus on, I made a mistake. But if you learn from this mistake, it's no longer a mistake. It's a lesson that you learned, and then you move on to the next. So I totally agree with what you're putting down there.
Right.
Missy, what's your ideal on this?
Yep.
Well, I always agree with Keith. Okay, don't always agree with Keith. I'm just saying that.
Are you brown nosing again? You got something
She
brown
keeps
on
me
your
in check. We'll
nose.
say that.
I like to be Keith's devil's advocate a lot. I do
She keeps me in
agree.
check.
I do agree on the whole point of, just like both of them have said. I'm sure we've had multiple conversations on our chats about this very topic, but
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I like to pretend and be a little bit more blissful because, I'm just that soft, squishy soul. So I tend to believe that, it's kind of like if you've ever seen the movie What Dreams May Come, maybe you choose to go back and just relive and have an opportunity to find, someone that you love, or people that you love, or you just want to reconnect with and just live with again. Maybe the lesson is love. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's, it could be a plethora of things, but every time, you probably come back, there's something to be gained, something a little that moves you up a little higher on the notch, wisdom,
Well, it's
knowledge,
interesting, too.
truth.
A lot of times we don't intentionally seek these people out. They just show up in our lives, and you just automatically know, I know this person. Where do I know this person from? I recognize you. Even though you don't recognize them physically, you recognize their spirit, and it's so amazing when that happens. And it doesn't happen for everybody, but I think it's once you go through those different lessons, mistakes that you learn from, so on and so forth, and you realize at different moments the circle, and it's kind of an infinity. So many different circles.
Then don't settle for
cool that you guys found each other. Even though, he's somewhat of a savant, I think that he could be quite valuable to the team, and seems to be already.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Charlie's almost like a right hand for me.
Joke's on you, I'm left-handed.
See?
That's right.
See, it works out well that way.
That's so funny. Well, we are in the last 5 minutes of our show. So is there anything that you guys would like to discuss during this last 5 minutes that we haven't hit upon already?
You were talking about equipment that we'd like to use. I hadn't got to put my 2 cents worth out on it yet.
Yeah. Okay.
One of my favorites now is divining rods. I have some set of copper divining rods. I love the heck out of these things. You can use them to find the borders of a portal, so you know where to start pushing to close it. You can sit there and hold them and have the spirits move them outwards for yes, inwards for no. I mean, there's so many different uses for these things. It's crazy. I help a group called Haunted Rooms America, and that's one of our tools that we use. We do guided tours of some different places, haunted locations, and we explain why they're used, what they used to be used for, finding water, stuff like that, electrical lines in the ground, and then we train them how to use them, and we let them go. And that is the favorite of those people also, is the divining rods. Next would probably be my voice recorder, that I rely on heavily. When you get direct answers to direct questions, that gives you verification on where you need to go next. Let's see. Love the heck. We've got an SLS cam. Love that thing.
Is that like the Connect cam?
Yes. Where it maps out the stick figures. Yep. Love that.
That's one of Charlie's favorites too.
Yeah.
That's like on my bucket list for my group, and that's the next thing I'm going to buy when I get my tax returns. I'm going to buy one of those SLS cams, and the more years I let go by, the cheaper it gets. So I'm excited about it. We had our Connect go off on its own, and it was picking up figures that weren't really there, and the kids got really freaked out, so we unplugged it and haven't replugged it again. But to use that in the field would be pretty epic.
Yeah, it's cool. When you catch something and you say, hey, can you wave at me 3 or 4 times in a row? And it does on cue. It's amazing. The feeling you get is amazing.
And then we've got they do the little Irish jig. They're like, diddle, 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 diddle. And they hop over somewhere, and you're like, how the hell did they do that? Well, it's in a non-physical realm. It can do whatever it wants.
Absolutely. It's energy. You can do whatever it wants. We've also got a portal. It's essentially a guitar amplifier with a noise reduction pedal and a reverb pedal hooked together in a specific way. Use it with a ghost box, and you can actually use that to take the static out of the ghost box, and you just get the voices coming through. I don't know if you've ever tried to pull evidence from a ghost box session. It sucks. It takes forever. This really helps with.
And the static can actually cause issues with people with mental disorders. The for a while can really get to somebody and drive them crazy, but to have that different influence where you only hear the words coming through instead of the repeatedly, it's pretty awesome. It helps you to focus and get what's really coming through.
Right. Yeah, those are probably my favorites, but I really enjoy the divining rods.
I have to say, dowsing rods were the very first and my favorite tool as well. And the first time I was introduced to it was on a ghost hunt in Las Vegas. And they're like, we're selling these for $5 a pop, which it doesn't really cost that much, but whatever. So I got 2 and I taught my kids how to use it. When I was really little, my granny taught me on an applewood rod to douse for water. You can use hickory sticks, all kinds of other things, but we used applewood. And it was amazing how accurate it was. And the energy that I felt off of these copper rods was so amazing. Like, it really blew my mind. And at one point, the lady's like, why are you shaking? And I'm kind of arching my back because the weight upon them felt so heavy. I was trying to hold it up, and I was shaking because the energy was so immense. And people are wondering, do you get different pings and tings from a spirit that controls this, or does it control the apparatus itself? But I was feeling a little bit of everything. I felt heavy on my hands, and like I was trying to hold it up, and I was just shaking because my muscles were trying to go into fatigue. But those things are so amazing, and my kids even know how to use them. They used them shortly after, and we actually got a little hitchhiker due to that, but it's a really cool tool. And even before the copper in Germany, they used sausages on the end of scissors and different things like that. Like the French used to look or hunt down wanted people with these dowsing rods. They worked so well that they actually at one point outlawed them because they said it was so unfair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do with them.
Well, I have to say, it was really awesome having you on, Keith and Charlie and Michelle, and hearing your different experiences and ways that you guys do things. Where can our listeners find you guys, find your site, and learn more about you or contact you?
We have a Facebook, Cobra Paranormal. I also do a podcast. It's called The Otter's Den, is the Facebook page. And then we have a website, CobraParanormal.com.
So can you all be contacted through that page, or is there any way otherwise that you'd like to have that done?
Yeah, with the web page, there is a link to email us. With the Facebook page, you can direct message us, comment on any post. So yeah, there's a few different ways to get a hold of us. If anybody's having issues, they can also, message me directly off of my Facebook page. It's just Keith Ottersberg, and there I am.
And do you guys charge for your services, or are you completely volunteer?
No, we don't charge. If somebody wants to donate a little bit, to help with gas money, we do travel quite a ways sometimes. Sometimes we'll accept it, sometimes we won't. It depends on the situation. But we do not charge. We do this to help people. We've all had issues. We all needed help. So.
Right. Well, I'm so grateful for what you guys are doing, and thank you so much again for being my guest tonight, Cobra Paranormal, a.k.a. Keith, Charlie, and Michelle. It's been epic having you on, and thank you for joining Late Night in the Rockies. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much for having us. Very appreciated.
And thank you to all our friends on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. I hope you had a wonderful time, just as I did this evening, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend. Tomorrow I'm taking the day off. Our guest canceled for medical reasons, and I'm going to help my daughter move to Moab and then see some hieroglyphs on the sandstone, which supposedly depict aliens. Those damn aliens and their UFOs. But next weekend, we have Psychic Chris Garcia on Saturday, Midwest Paranormal on Sunday. And you guys, don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. If you guys would like to join us on the Skype after party, look me up and send me a contact request at live.tessa.n.thomas30 or give us a jingle at 1-970-335-9596. So until next time, you guys, nighty-night, love and light. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Please don't work too hard, and I will see you back here, same time, same place.